It is the Royal Blue Podcast. I'm your host, Ian Croll, joined by Connor O'Neill. Everton are safe. It was never in doubt, and Sean Dyche really is the Messiah. And we finally got Connor O'Neill back on a Royal Blue Podcast after avoiding us for the past couple of weeks. Connor, you all right?
It was only last Wednesday, as in the last one before Liverpool.
Was that what it was?
Before Liverpool, yeah.
I must have asked you loads, and you just
we done a little preview show before one of the great Goodison nights. So
well, you're back on. That's the main thing. Friday night, Everton play Luton. Are you going to be watching the game tonight?
Of course, I'll be watching tonight. I'll be tuning in Sky Sports. It's going to be an interesting one, isn't it? I think everyone, Waythrow was the venue and the ground that I think it was a lot of people's minds when the fixtures come out at this last of the season. Obviously, we all know how historic it is and how old-fashioned it is. And obviously, Blues fans who are making the trip up there tonight will be going through that terraced housing away end, which has become a bit of a social media hit. But now I'll be watching. Of course, I think we'll get onto this, but it's somewhat going to be a lot different, I think, than what we thought it was going to be a few weeks ago, isn't it, this game tonight? Yeah. In the sense of Everton more than Luton, of course. But yeah, I'll be watching, and hopefully it'll be a 4 on the spin for the Blues.
Any plans for karaoke tonight like you did last week? I heard you were banging them out last Friday night.
No, there is no plans to do karaoke tonight. I can confirm I did do karaoke last Friday. I done one song, and that was one song too many. I think anyone who was there would agree. But
you're going to tell us what song you sang?
If you want to know, I sang Robbie Williams' Angels by Robbie Williams.
Oh, well, there you go. That is the reveal of the podcast, I think, isn't
it? But no, there's no plans to do any of that tonight. It'll be a nice quiet one on my settee watching the Blues on Sky Sports.
Okay. Well, we are live on YouTube, so if you're watching, please give us a like, give us a subscribe, give us a share. All the support that you give us is greatly appreciated. Also, give us a review on Spotify as well as Apple Podcasts. Give us a 5-star rating. Give us a 4-star. If you're going to give us anything below a 3, don't bother. Also, leave us a comment as well, and we'll try and get through them. It's only going to be a short one today because, like I say, Connor is busy. We've got plenty on today. But we thought it was worth doing a Luton preview. Obviously, the game tonight. Our 8 o'clock kickoff, isn't it? So our reporters, Joe, Thomas and Chris Beasley are... I think they're travelling down about 12 in the car, so a bit of a journey for them. And I'm sure we'll get updates from them on the Echo website and across our social channels as well. I mean, Connor, like you said, this game is massively different to how we thought it was going to pan out a couple of weeks back. So much so I'd planned a bit of a night out with the lads to watch the game, and now that was safe. I actually can't really be bothered going out, but obviously gonna watch the game. But this is obviously on the back of three massive wins in a row. Just kind of not insane, but is it surprising that we are safe at this stage, considering after the Chelsea game? Was it ever in doubt?
No one foresaw this coming, did they, after the Chelsea game? I think if we're all being brutally honest, we all started to feel the worst after Chelsea because the way we collapsed, the way we were just so easily beaten. There was obviously questions over the manager as well at that point in time. I think we all headed into the Forest game knowing that essentially, we had to win. We had to win. We had to find a way to win. And they did do that. And obviously then everyone goes into the pool and, obviously we knew spoke before the game and it was earmarked as a bit of a, perhaps a free hit. Some people, we kind of, because we beat Forest and with Brentford to come, the pressure was all on Liverpool if they had to win to maintain their title push, etc. And obviously we picked up a more than deserved 2-0 victory that night, which then puts us into on the Saturday just gone against Brentford, where you think, well, if we win here, we've got one foot in next season's Premier League. Fortune plays out the way it does, and Wolves beat Luton, which means that if we get 3 points, we're safe. Obviously we got them 3 points. It was by no means a classic. I don't think Saturday's game is one that's going to live long in the memory for anyone who was at Goodison Park. And certainly not when you consider, recent years, the games that have secured Everton's place in next season's Premier League, that will, sit well and true at the bottom of the list. But they won and they got 9 points from 9, and obviously all of a sudden we're now sitting here, Everton are safe. We've got nothing to worry about going into tonight, and obviously, the pressure is all on Luton because if they're going to have any chance of staying up this season, then they need to beat the Blues tonight to give themselves a fighting chance. So it's surprising. I think it is surprising. I don't think any of us thought that Everton would get 9. I think even the most optimistic of Evertonians wouldn't have thought we'd get 9 out of 9 from that 6-day run. Certainly Liverpool, the Liverpool game being in the middle, I think was always one that people earmarked as perhaps it could be quite tough, Darren. You know, I know a lot of Everton fans were kind of like, well, you know, if we beat Forest and then we get a point at Brentford, or beat Forest and then beat Brentford, we lose to Liverpool, it is what it is. But we beat 2 relegation rivals and give ourselves a good chance of staying up. Obviously, as things have transpired, you know, we're now safe, and it's a remarkable turn of events, and one that, you know, I think every Everton fan is grateful for, because it means that we go into May not having sleepless nights, not having to worry about what other teams are doing, and ultimately knowing that we're going to be a Premier League club next season.
The most pleasing thing for me is following on from the Forest game, which was the high pressure game. We've kind of finished it off ourselves, because I know it wasn't mathematically safe, but effectively I felt from the Forest win that we would be safe, because I didn't think Luton or Forest would win all the matches that they needed to. So effectively they'd end up just running out of games. But the fact that we've, you know, gone on to beat Liverpool, which was, you know, just an emphatic occasion in itself, but then obviously gone on to beat Brentford as well, because a lot of people were saying, well, you know, we'll take a draw against Brentford just to confirm it, because I think Luton had dropped more points.
But they've been beaten at Wolves.
Yeah, so they've been beaten, so it was effectively a point would have done it. I didn't want to, even on following on from the Liverpool game, because everyone's expectations and the euphoria of it was so high, I didn't want the Brentford game just to like fizzle out a little bit. I know, okay, it was never going to be the same as the Liverpool game. Let's have it right. It was never going to be that. But we ended up getting the 3 points, and I feel like that was the most pleasing thing for me, that we just carried on. So in that respect, then, do we try to aim to do the same thing tonight, or does Dyche experiment a little bit with the side and the options that he's got? Because let's face it, we know we're not going to go down. This could be the perfect opportunity to experiment in competitive games.
I don't think he will experiment. I don't think Sean Dyche is that type of manager. Right. I don't think he's someone who kind of writes games off and thinks, you know, it's trial and error tonight, lads. We don't need to worry. I think tonight is a great chance of ensuring that we keep momentum. And you know, if we can finish the season having won, you know, 5 out of our last 6 games, that would be superb. And I think that is within touch and distance for Everton, because they could and should win tonight. And it should be Sheffield United to Goodison next Saturday. Arsenal in the last game of the season is an incredibly tough ask at any point of the season. But when you consider that they might have to win that game to have any chance of winning the title if it goes to the final day. So, you know, it's almost an impossible task. So if Everton come in 5 out of the 6 remaining Premier League games, I think that would be remarkable, especially after what we saw against Chelsea. So yeah, I think tonight's a real good chance to continue that momentum, continue that upward trajectory towards, you know, try and finish as high as we can, try and finish with as much momentum as we can, and ultimately, you know, start building for next season. You know, we want to see, you know, performances tonight that we can take into next season. So yeah, I think tonight won't be a night for experiments, and Sean Dyche will be 100% not wanting to experiment. And I think it's a good chance for us to keep momentum and give ourselves the best chance of finishing strongly. I think it all goes back, though, doesn't it, to that Liverpool game, and I think once we beat them, it became quite clear that we had a very good chance of staying up, and it was in our own hands, well and truly, at that point. And I like the fact that we've done it ourselves. I like the fact that, you know, okay, I know people will say, well, Luton getting beat was a massive help, because it meant that, you know, you got the chance to, but, you know, it wasn't a default kind of like, we lost to Brentford, but it's okay because Luton lost and, you know, Forest dropped points. We went out and won the games that we needed to win, and I think that's the most pleasing thing for me, is that we've gone out and done it on our own.
Exactly, yeah. I mean, I completely agree with you on an experimental thing. I do think that there is room to experiment, but I think Dyche is just not that type of manager. I think, one, he obviously wants to finish as high up the table as possible. We know what comes with that, more prize money, etc. But I think he probably just want to do it for him, you know, to say that you were a team fighting relegation and then end up finishing, I don't know, like 12th. I don't know where we could potentially end up, but everyone will remember that we've been deducted 8 points, and then it'll be like...
Well, I think if you take if you take the 8 points, if you keep the 8 points and add on to what they could finish on, say they beat Luton tonight and Sheffield United next week, is it 48 points I think we would have finished on if you include the 8 points that we lost? Yeah. Which, when you think of, you know, last season's total, the season before, that's a stark increase, isn't it, from what we've seen. So for Sean Dyche to do that in one season, in what as well as, by the way, has been a turbulent season, you know, on and off the pitch. Obviously, results and performances haven't been great at times, and there's been questions asked. But, you know, off the pitch, the stuff, you know, Sean Dyche has had to contend with, you know, the takeover, the points deductions, you know, the PSR. You know, you think back to the summer at the end of the transfer window when Iwobi gets sold to, you know, Fulham. Tom Cannon goes to Leicester on the final day of the window. And, you know, Dyche comes out after Sheffield United. Obviously, myself and Joe Thomas were there, and it's basically like, well, you know, I would have liked to have kept Alex Iwobi, but, you know, unfortunately, business circumstances, you know, meant otherwise. And, you know, so you take all that into consideration. You know, Sean Dyche had to deal with stuff this year that managers might deal with once in their whole managerial career, and he's had to do it 4 or 5 times over. So I think when you're taking all that, and, you know, obviously say, you know, possibly finished on 48 points, it's a remarkable feat, and I think that's why, like you say there, more than anything tonight, he'll want to win, and he'll want to, you know, bet as many points on the board as possible, because it makes him look good at the end of the day.
Well, it's interesting that you bring all of that up, because I've got a quote here from Dyche, which he obviously spoke about. Probably it was either after the Liverpool game or the Brentford game, but I'll read it out, and it just kind of goes in line of what you were saying, everything that's happened in this turbulent season. So it says, quote, "The reason why it's my best season as a manager is because you don't even know the half of it. Some of it is private and some of it is best kept away." So you can obviously feel that he's been keeping a lot.
Oh yeah, 100%. Like, you know, like I said, he's had to deal with stuff this season that managers deal with once, if they're unlucky in their whole managerial career, and he's probably had to deal with that 4 or 5 times over, which is just, you know, remarkable, isn't it, really, that, you know, he's managed to keep them up and, you know, get a team out there that, you know, is winning games of football. And also as well, you know, for Sean Dyche himself, there's a lot of personal pride in this, isn't it? Because obviously the way he left Burnley wasn't so great. You know, he's obviously back in football, he's got a point to prove. After, you know, if we're being brutally honest, after Sheffield United, there was questions being asked of him, you know. After Chelsea, there was questions being asked of him, you know, and people kind of saying, you know, if we don't beat Forest, do we need to make a change? Because
keep me head down on that one.
You know, do we need to take a change to give ourselves the best chance of making sure we stay up and stuff like that? So for what he's done, you know, it's a massive achievement, and let's face it, Sean Dyche won't want to go to Luton tonight and get rolled over because he played a weak, you know, not a weakened team, but he made changes when he didn't have to, and, you know, and also as well, let's be brutally honest, if he brings some of the players in that he could bring in, you know, Danjuma, Onana, you know, these are internationals. they're not young kids who've been plucked off, you know, the youth team or the reserve team. You know, the fully fledged internationals who played at the highest level. So I think there are elements of that as well. Like the squad is, you know, if he does make changes, some of the players coming in should want to prove to him that they belong. You know, Amadou Onana clearly rates himself very highly, and the people around him rate him very highly. If you're not getting games for Everton when they're probably in the best run of form they've been in all season, producing the best performances they've been in all season, you should be looking at yourself in the mirror and saying, well, when I get my chance, I've got to prove that I belong in that team. You might get that chance tonight, we don't know, but I just think it's one of them where tonight there'll be no experiment, there'll be no taking chances, it'll be the strongest Everton team Sean Dyche can put out because he'll want to win a game.
It's not a good look for Onana, is it? And I don't want to focus, you know, on that too much, but what I will say, or what I will ask you, you know, following the Burnley game, where we won, performance was shocking. People left Goodison Park still not feeling great. It going into that Chelsea game where we got absolutely hammered. What's changed then in between that week for you? You know, you can always have the players coming out and saying, well, we had this meeting and we spoke about this, few home truths. I think Tarkowski come out and said that like a couple of times, and, you know, Sean Dyche, I'm sure, has given the players a really good hiding, if that's what you want to call
dressing
it.
Dressing down,
yeah. But is it what is it? Is it a case of team selection, like bringing players in who having more of an impact on the game, taking players out who maybe not having an impact on the game, or was this always going to happen for Sean Dyche?
I don't know. I mean, it's hard to put your finger on one of them elements, isn't it? Because I think after Chelsea, he had to make changes because what we witnessed at Stamford Bridge was by nowhere near good enough. And I was in the pod after, obviously, the Tuesday after Chelsea on the Monday night, and, you know, I said on that in that pod, you know, you can put up with players being better than us. You know, let's face it, a lot of teams in the Premier League got better players than Everton have. You know, we can't deny that. You know, City have got a better centre forward than we have in Erling Haaland, and, you know, Liverpool have got Mohamed Salah, who's better than anything we've got for attacking threat. But what you can't put up with is what we saw at Stamford Bridge from some players, is the bare basics not being done. You know, track and runners, just putting a bit of shift in, a bit of personal pride. And as we didn't see that against Chelsea Stamford Bridge, that's how we got beat 6-0. Because too many players just give up, didn't try. Dyche made changes, he had to make changes, and they've all paid off since then. It's not been pretty, I think is the best way to describe it. Obviously, it's been a lot more robust, I think, in how we've approached games. You know, you think of, say, the Liverpool game where it was, up and at them, and, we kind of got stuck in and worked our socks off. So some players perhaps haven't fitted into that model, have they? But it's just fell into place for him, hasn't it, at the right time. I think is the big takeaway. He's got a selection spot on when it mattered most, and you've got to give Dyche credit, because that's what a manager earns the big bucks, because when he needs to get it right, Dyche has got it right. And it's not just this season as well, it was last season, of course. You think of the Brighton away game, Bournemouth on the last day. When it really matters most, he seems to get it right, which is a massive trait to have.
Okay, well, before we go into a little bit of player focus, then just Dyche obviously bought himself the final season at Goodison Park for you then?
I think so. I can't see how a change would be made this summer. I think he's shown us in the last 6 weeks that he probably is the best man for the job as things stand. And also as well, obviously, it's ultimately great, isn't it, waving bye-bye to him and shaking hands and moving on to pastures new. But we've got to be brutally honest, dudes want the Everton job right now. I know people will always say, the people out there, but the way the club is, the way what's going on off the pitch, there'll probably be a lot of managers thinking, no, you're okay, thanks. And of course, if Sean Dyche was to even, leave Everton this summer, who then appoints his successor? Because, obviously with the takeover up in the air the way it is, would 7-7 have a say? Would it be Managerial? Would it be Kevin Thelwell? Who knows? So I think Sean Dyche, as things stand, has bought himself the final season at Goodison Park, and it's richly deserved, because he managed to pick a team up that looked like it was on the floor after Stamford Bridge to pick 9 points up in 3 games.
Well, richly deserved and credit due. And a wise man once said, "Give your head a wobble."
You probably he's a bit of humble pie, haven't you, as well, to be fair?
Essentially, but I'm more than happy to be wrong if Everton are winning football matches. Well, I think the only way at this moment in time, if Sean Dyche not being the Everton manager, is 2 things. If he wants to leave himself, which I don't think he will, or if a new owners come in and literally don't fancy Dyche, or think that he can bring someone else superior.
I mean, unless something is going on behind the background that no one knows, that seems a very long way off, doesn't it, at the minute? So, yeah, there are them 2 elements, of course, but I think from a club perspective, I don't think anyone will be looking to get rid of Sean Dyche anytime soon.
No. Okay, well, little bit of player focus before we just go on to the Luton game. We'll talk about team selection and predictions, but do you want to talk about Ben Godfrey and Dwight McNeil? First off, Dwight McNeil, because I put a tweet out earlier in the week which got a lot of response, a lot of engagement about whether McNeil should be moved to a more central position behind the striker. Not advocating for it as such, I just thought it'd be interesting because I think he drifts from the left into the middle and seems to find that space and seems to be more of a goal scoring threat from the centre. I mean, some of his shots over the past two or 3 weeks have been absolute thunderbolts, getting on the score sheet as well. So what are your thoughts on that, Connor? Do you see Dwight McNeil maybe, coming into the middle? A lot of people have described him as a Mikalenko style, that maybe who would come in behind the striker in the centre.
Mikalenko style?
Not Mikalenko.
Zimmer.
Yeah, sorry. Got me Russians and me Ukrainians mixed up there.
I don't think I've seen Mikalenko playing the number 10 role for Everton.
He definitely hasn't got a shot like Dwight McNeil.
But then again, you've been campaigning for Michael Keane's go up top for long enough that
I haven't. I just suggested that as an option.
Is Mikalenko? No, I mean, I understand where you're coming from, and I understand that, but I just think there's one issue, and that's Abdoulaye Doucouré, because I think he's a massive part of whenever he plays well. Everton seem to play well, but I don't think he can play anywhere else apart from that number 10 role behind the forward. I think that's his most natural position. I don't think Doucouré suits playing deeper. He's like just a guy in a gay plays in front of the back 4. I don't think he really suits that role, and obviously the number 8 style role is obviously a battle between Amadou Onana and James Garner at the minute. So again, he's probably not going to be in the mix for that. So whilst I understand where you're coming from, I just think as things stand at the minute, it's a no for me, because I think Doucouré has to play that role because that's his most natural position, and when he plays well, Everton seem to play well.
Okay, fair enough, and I don't disagree with you. I think my only issue with it is we need pace on the wings, and whether Sean Dyche thinks the same. I don't know whether he wants to play with a bit of pace and wingers. Only time will tell. But if we were to bring wingers in either side, it'd be difficult to see where Dwight McNeil would fit in as such, because I don't think he's actually an out-and-out winger as such as the modern day. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I just think at the minute though with Decore, it's a lot. This is probably a summer transfer debate, isn't it? If the rumours start to swell and stuff like that. But I think as things stand for now, I think Decore has to play him behind the centre forward because it's his best position. When he plays well, Everton tend to play well. Okay,
just the last player I want to speak about before we preview Luton. Godfrey, fantastic couple of weeks, absolutely insane. Bit of a difficult up and down season, I'd probably say, for him, because let's face it, he's not playing in his natural position that you would perceive to be centre back, but he's done very well. But where would you see, again, it's kind of a similar question to Dwight McNeil, where do you see Godfrey's future? What positions do you see him playing for Everton if he sticks around in the future? Because he's never going to, if Brandtwaite and Tarkowski stick around, he's probably never going to get.
No, he's probably a right back, isn't he? In that sense, he's probably the natural right back, but he's obviously not a natural right back. If that probably doesn't sound.
I know
right,
what you mean,
but so he's obviously. I think for him, he probably faces a big question himself this summer in terms of if he wants to go and play centre back week in week out. Then he probably will have to look to leave Everton, if we're being brutally honest. Just because you can't see him getting ahead. He's not going to get ahead of James Tarkowski, Jarrod Brandtwaite, and also he's not going to probably dislodge Michael Keane as the third choice centre back. I think it's safe to say. So obviously that means he would have to play, either side, left back or right back, and he's probably then, if he does that, the backup full back to Mikalenko and Seamus Coleman, Nathan Patton, or whoever's the right side. So I think if he wants to play first team football on a regular basis, certainly centre back, he would probably have to look to move on from Everton in the summer. But I think he has been, like I said, he's been absolutely superb, and I think ultimately, he's come in, done a job when it mattered most, and I think he deserves a huge amount of praise, because it probably would have been easy for him to, not down tools as such, but struggle to come back in and get up to speed, because he hasn't been playing much football. But he's been absolutely superb, and he's been a big part of Everton's recent success, hasn't he, in the last few weeks?
Yeah, the only issue is obviously, I think he's fantastic in his attributes and his strengths and what he's got. He obviously doesn't offer too much going forward, and that's one place where we let ourselves down.
That's why he'd just be the backup full-back only to someone to come in. But does he want to play that second fiddle role? Probably not. Like I say, I think if he wants to go and play first team football on a regular basis, certainly centre back, then he'd have to look at leaving Everton in the summer. Okay, well, let's finish off with the Luton preview. 8 p.m. kick-off tonight. I suppose then, if Sean Dyche is not going to experiment with anything, the team really should pick itself as long as players are fit and ready to go. So he said Dominic Calvert-Lewin and Beto are back in contention. So effectively, Dominic Calvert-Lewin should just go straight back in that team. Yeah, 100%. Do not disagree. Calvert-Lewin's fit, get him back in the team, get him back amongst the goals. Another one who gets some momentum building for next season. It's clearly shown when he's fit and firing. He's a different animal, and he makes Everton a different. The derby was a prime example, wasn't it? He gave Van Dijk and Kanate especially a dog's life up top. Didn't stop. Got a goal. It was absolutely superb. And I think as well, and I tweeted this after the derby, I actually think when Calvert-Lewin was fit and fine like he was at that Liverpool game, there's few better lone centre forwards. I'm not saying better centre forwards as in like in the Premier League, lone centre forwards who can play the number 9 role up top by themselves, put themselves about and try and get a goal. I don't think there's any better in the Premier League than him, of not having to have loads of people around him. So if Dominic Calvert-Lewin is fit with Sean Dyche says he's back in contention, as far as I'm concerned, get him back in the start 11. Yeah, well, we'll come on to team selection now, but we have got a comment, a really good comment here from Mike. Basically said, we'd have imploded under a weaker man this season. The footy won't be great at times, but Dyche is the man to stabilise the team for the next 2 or 3 seasons while the club corrects itself. Can't disagree with that. Can't. We've seen, haven't we? And like I say, Sean Dyche alluded to himself, didn't he? You don't know the half of what's gone on. It was quite. It's quite interesting, isn't it? Because I know in the very good BBC series that Julia Bowles, presented and co-produced, Dyche in his interview said, at Burnley, in my 9 years there, I had one book in me. I've been here 6 months and I've got about, I think it was like 5 or 10. I think he said, this season you dread to think how many books he's got in him after what's transpired on and off the pitch. So yeah, I don't disagree with Mike there. I think Sean Dyche has shown his worth in these last few weeks.
Okay, well, we kind of owe Luton one, to be honest, don't we?
We do. Twice,
two
really.
defeats in one season by Luton. Not a good look for the club or Dyche at the time. I remember the Premier League game, and then the Cup was obviously very disappointing in itself. So, do you think they'll stay up regardless of tonight, or do you think they'll?
I don't know. I think it's going to be a tough one. I think it's. I actually think a lot depends on Forest's appeal over the points deduction that they got.
Okay, and that
is due any minute. I think, isn't it? Any time now. Not as in any time now, but
we thought it'd be this week.
Yeah, it's due at any point. I think a lot could depend on that. I do think for Forest to help, though, I think they've got Sheffield United tomorrow and Burnley on the last weekend of the season. So you would probably say it's in their hands. Luton essentially, for being brutally honest, they've got to win tonight, haven't they, to give themselves any hope or any chance. So I think it's going to be tight. It's going to be, it's going to be tough, and I'm just so glad that Everton are no part of it.
Okay, well, team selection then, no experimenting. Get your strongest team out. That's your thought. So come on then, who are you picking?
Pickford in goal.
Yeah.
Then probably go Godfrey right back. Ashley Young left back.
I forgot Mikalenko's out.
Mikalenko is obviously out injured, isn't he? Branthwaite, Tarkowski, James Garner, Drissagay, Doucouré, Harrison, McNeil, Calvert-Lewin up top.
The team effectively picks itself. I don't disagree with any of that. And who are we to say, starts chopping and changing after the week that we've had and the 3 games?
It'd be good to see Schmidt get some minutes, though. I mean, I would say that'd be good to see Schmidt get some more minutes.
A little bit hard done by then if he misses out.
Possibly, because he did do well, but I mean, Luton away on a Friday night would be a really good test for him, wouldn't it? But Calvert-Lewin maybe gets an hour 70 minutes in. Schmidt gets 20 minutes at the end. I wouldn't be too disheartened by that. Okay,
we'll finish off with predictions. Are you going for a win?
I'm going to go for 3-1 Everton.
3-1. Interesting one. I think it's a tough one. I think to win 4 games in a row. I mean, obviously the last time we did that was
just very un-Everton, isn't it?
Yeah, it's very un-Everton. But if we did it twice in one season, that'd be very un-Everton even more.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go positive. I'm going to go. I'll probably go for a 1-0. I think I'm going to go for a 1-0 and Dominic Calvert-Lewin with the goal. And
I think tonight, though, one thing to point out, it's not going to be a classic of pure great football. It's going to be frantic, fast-paced, and it's going to be very full throttle, I think, from both teams. I don't think it's going to be a classic in terms of what we're going to witness in terms of football. And
I mean, I say 1-0, but I think it's going to be tight. It probably won't, actually. Luton concede all the time. The amount of goals there's goals in their games, whether they score them or concede them.
Yeah, was it 5-0 they were beaten at home, or 5-1 by Brentford last time out when they were Kenilworth Road. So
the Bournemouth game as well, if you remember, that kind of not kill their season, but started the slow
decline. Yeah. Well, we've seen ourselves. I think when you get one bad result, the domino effect can be very quick, can't it? You get into a rut. You think of that. I know we always we go back about too, but you think of that Onana penalty against Fulham, don't you, in the League Cup? And our season kind of fell off a bit of a cliff from that moment on. And you're right to point out there, Bournemouth, the Bournemouth comeback against Luton seemed to be the start of Luton's bit of demise off the cliff. So I think it'll be interesting, but I'm fully backing the Blues to get all 3 points. Okay, well, that is a good place to finish. It is a short one today. That's all for today's show. Please remember to hit the like, subscribe and share button on YouTube. All your support is greatly appreciated. Give us a follow on Facebook, which is Everton FC Liverpool Echo. Give us a review on iTunes, Spotify, Apple Pods, 5-star, 4-star. We don't accept any 3 stars, so don't bother if you're going to go 3 or below. That's right, Connor, innit? Anything else before we finish off? No, nothing from me.
Okay, well, I've been Ian Croll with Connor O'Neill, and this has been the Royal Blue Podcast.